Let me bring in on this broadcast Sanjay Kumar, co-director of Lokniti CSDS, a psephologist, Mr. Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist, commentator, election analyst and researcher, also with us. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. Amitabh Tiwari, I'd like to begin with you. In the data that we've put out, where essentially when we look at really the 52 lakh number, it's gone, of course, much about that, about 61 lakh now. But at 52 lakh, essentially it's about 22,000 average voters removed per seat. And the question that immediately comes to my mind is what happens to those seats where it went down to the wire? Do you think that those are the seats where you'll see the maximum impact perhaps of these voter names being removed?
So see, essentially, if 22,739 voters per seat are being removed, then it effectively implies roughly 70 to 75 voters per polling booth. Correct. Now the question, the bigger question is if these are deceased and have permanently shifted, whether they voted in 2020 or not is a question mark. Correct. That only the
Yeah.
ECI knows whether these guys have voted or not voted. Even if they have voted, their voting percentage may not be 100%. It would be in line with what was the overall voting percentage, which was around 60%. And whom they voted, nobody would know. Whether they voted Mahagathbandhan or they voted NDA, it is very, very difficult to know. And you have rightly apportioned it between the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan. The bigger question is if the opposition has problems with, let's say, this 18 lakh people who have been removed and they feel that these are legible voters, then that is just 25 per booth. And with RJD having a statewide presence and the single largest party in the state, they can easily identify these voters and bring them to the district headquarters or the administrative divisions. So that is what the play is. What is the problem? If the problem is that these guys do exist, then they are somewhere in Bihar itself. They can be
Yeah.
easily brought up and you can go and cover and all the national media can go and cover. Correct. The problem is that, but one thing which they are raising is valid, is that to remove deceased voters or voters who have shifted permanently, a SIR was not required. This should
Yeah.
have been done in the summary revision. SIR was to weed out illegal citizens. But out of this 52 lakh or 61 lakhs, we have still not got what is the number of illegal citizens who have been removed.
You're right.
Correct.
We don't have that breakdown, but in the next 24 hours, when this exercise ends, maybe we'll get that data from the Election Commission and then we'll be able to break that down further. But looking at that 52 lakh number, and I'll bring in Mr. Sanjay Kumar on this, if we break that down, particularly based on the 2024 vote share, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, it does look like based on the votes lost to the assembly seat, it is the NDA that's hit harder than the Mahagathbandhan. And so, amid all of the politics, that's a very, very interesting and important data point.
No, I think if you're projecting it on 2024 Lok Sabha election, and I think what you're trying to do is to proportionate these 52 lakh voters in terms of the vote share polled by the different alliances. Since
Correct.
NDA had polled larger number of votes, so the greater proportion of these will definitely go in their favor. So it's not that it will hurt the NDA going by that logic, because in some of the constituencies, NDA alliance partner may have won the constituency with a very large margin. It will matter in an election scenario when we are heading for a close election. If it is a one-sided election, and the example which you have cited is about a one-sided election. 2024 election was a one-sided election. And in such a scenario, whether you are removing 52 lakh or whether you are removing 39 lakh, doesn't make a lot of difference because a party or an alliance has won the election with a huge margin. It will not make much difference.
No, so do you think, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, the kind of questions that the opposition has raised over the exercise itself is very much valid? Because there are also holes constantly being poked on how the EC is moving with this exercise, particularly in the border areas.
No, the questions which are being raised by the opposition are valid because they are not referring to 2024 Lok Sabha election. We are not heading for a Lok Sabha election. Bihar is heading for an assembly election. And the assembly election has been much tighter compared to the Lok Sabha election. You did show the data about the assembly election results of 2020. And we know that election was very, very close. And if such a large number of voters are removed, and if we know that generally there is a belief that people who are on the lower ends of socio-economic margins, they would be the ones who would find it difficult to produce the kind of documents which are being required. So the proportion of voters who are getting removed would be higher among the lower socio-economic ladder, among the poor and the lower class voters. And if we go by the post-survey data, we know that a larger proportion of them votes for RJD alliance. I'm not saying everyone votes in favor of RJD alliance. So the loser, it proportionately is going to be RJD Mahagathbandhan alliance.
Looking at these data, these are numbers, let's be very clear. And so there's no clarity on really what, who, where, why, none of that. Do you think that's what it essentially comes down to decide whether an SIR will actually have an impact for which party, etc.? Do you think it comes down to the demography of who, and that's what matters the most, Amitabh Tiwari?
Of course, as Sanjay sir has said, we need to have the breakup of the voters. Who are these voters? Age, gender, income groups, caste, religion, etc. And also we need to understand that whether these guys voted in 2024 or not, whether these guys were dead, let's say 18 lakh, and they still remained on the voter list, let's say for some error, because they were still on the voter list even in January 1, 2025. So if there was an error, if they were on the voter list in 2024 by error, then their removal or existence on the voter list does not matter much, because they would not have voted, unless we are alleging that there is mass bogus voting, correct? That these guys were not there, but they still voted, etc.
Yeah.
So the demographic of the people who have been excluded is fairly important. And for a party like RJD, which has polling booths, polling agents across the state, we can discount Congress for some time, because Congress is not that powerful in northern states. They can easily pick up this if there is mass scale rigging in this process, correct? Because the booth agent knows the people who have been removed.
Look, impact is something that maybe will take time to analyze and read through, but clearly at this point, the opposition is already crying foul. And so much so that when questions are asked, Tejasvi Yadav suggests that boycott is something that's on the table. It's an option that they are considering right now in the run-up to the Bihar elections. Thank you very much to both our panelists, our analysts, for joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Sanjay Kumar, Amitabh Tiwari, thank you for your time and for joining us here on Newstrack. It's an interesting election that we're counting down to in Bihar, of course, made a whole lot more interesting because of the EC exercise. That ends in 24 hours. As of the latest data from the Election Commission, over 61 lakh votes have been gone, eliminated from the voter roll. That number will go up further, but a detailed breakdown will really be needed to understand what will be the impact of these kind of names being removed. Who will it impact the most? Will it be the NDA? Will it be the Mahagathbandhan? We are going to track and decode that for you.